Pokemon Magenta, a Pokemon Creepypasta, created by Andre SB. It was summer, a great time to stay at home and relax. It was kind of boring sometimes, but I had a Nintendo Switch and a Game Boy Color. I remember playing the yellow version of Pokemon when I was younger, but my mom threw it away because I raged a lot when my character was suddenly stuck out of bounds. I didn't have any Pokemon games on the Switch, like Let's Go either, and I was a big Pokemon fan too, which was sad. I eventually decided to go to GameStop to see if they had Pokemon Crystal in stock. Sadly, the only Pokemon game that they had was something that looked like a bootleg called Pokemon Magenta, and it was the only one in stock. I decided to buy it out of curiosity of what it may be. I thought it may be just a Pokemon retextured, or a bad ROM hack or something. Anyhow, I got back home, I grabbed my GB Color and put the cartridge in. The GB Color intro started playing. The nostalgia. Then came the Pokemon Magenta intro. The background was entirely magenta, and the Game Freak logo was white. The intro battle scene started, but it was a Vulpix battling a Fennekin. Seemed like a new ROM hack. I guess the ROM hacker really likes foxes. I started to think about a YouTuber that I know. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Then the logo came up. Pokemon Magenta version. I felt okay and wanted to start a new game, but there was a save file. When I tried accessing it, a text box appeared, saying,
"I'm sorry, but this save file is corrupt."
Don't remember this being in the original game. After closing the text box, the game sent me back to the title screen. Again, I don't remember this being in the original game. I entered the file selection menu again, but the save file was gone. I decided to start a new file, because it was my only option. I made a new file, but instead of Professor Oak greeting me, I was sent directly to the gender selection. That's weird. Then I got sent to the name creation. I decided to make my trainer's name AGFNAF as a joke, because I thought that YouTuber would like this ROM hack. When I entered it, a new screen appeared saying,
"Enter password."
What? I was confused. I decided to enter another name, SFG, as a test. Again, a password screen came up. I decided eventually to name my trainer Josh. This time, it let me through without a password. My trainer came up, then a text box saying,
"Player, please throw away this game while you still can."
I thought this was a joke to not let me play, so I continued. When I spawned, I wasn't in Pallet Town. It was a new place, called Dio Pizzeria. You've got to be kidding me. But then, as soon as I wanted to walk, the escape rope animation started to play, but my trainer was sent to the right. I was then sent to a familiar place I saw in a creepypasta called Lost Silver, so I decided to check my Pokemon. I had 6 unknowns spelling Oak. I closed the menu. The escape rope animation played correctly this time and sent me to a place called... I thought I entered a unused map or something, but then I heard a buzzing sound coming from my GB Color, almost like a child's voice. An oddly familiar one. I decided to check my Pokemon again. 6 unknowns again, this time spelling... Then the Pokemon menu was refreshed, something that, yet again, wasn't in the original. This time, the unknown spelled... Then, a glitching image of a YouTuber I was talking about appeared on the screen, getting closer to the screen, until only his face was visible. He said,
"You shouldn't be here."
I had an option to type. I asked, "Is that the real you?"
I guess so. What do you want?
Tell me, are you dead?
Can't really tell. But, do you want to continue your adventure, Ryan?
How the hell does he know my real name? A text box with yes and no appeared. I decided to choose yes.
Okay. We'll watch your front door.
The game crashed, and after I restarted it, the game was corrupt. Then, I heard a bang on my door. The figure looked like a Braixen without an ear. But it wasn't a Braixen. It was the YouTuber. I hid under my bed, but that didn't help. The last thing I remember before waking up in the hospital bed was him, dragging me outside the door. I tried telling my doctor and family that it was him with a scratch that I had on my arm, but they didn't believe me. If you even find this game, don't play it. And that was Pokemon Magenta. Now, before I say anything, I do want to apologize if my reading wasn't fully 100%. It's just my voice isn't really 100% there. It's not as proper. I've been screaming a lot for the past holiday, July the 4th, and all that stuff. Been celebrating and stuff like that. So I'm just saying, sorry if I haven't been, doing my 100% work, like 100% enthusiasm into it, but sometimes you gotta let your voice rest, but sometimes you still gotta do your work. But with that being said, that was Pokemon Magenta, created by, I gotta bring up his name again. I have his the story's on DeviantArt, first of all. This is created by Andre SB. This was actually a submission from him. Like, he told me in the comments of one of my videos saying, I'm gonna make a story called Pokemon Magenta, and he wants me to read it, and honestly, okay, I'm not gonna rant, of course. I will point out, like, first of all, if you're not new to these Creepypasta review things, what I do is I read the stories, and then I review them, and then I just wanted to tell you what I saw, and if there's any cliches in there, what cliches they were, and how you can improve. So, some of the things I want to read off first is about the grammar. It's not 100%. I even got a nice couple of quotes for the example. 1, a unused map. If a word has a vowel in it, but then you want to say something like, basically you don't say a word like an, or like a, with a vowel after. Like, you can't say, like, a unused map. Like, if you said an unused map, then that'd work. And another example is, this save file is corrupt, which is spelled C-O-R-U-P-P-T. Now, I can understand maybe that, like, spelling mistake, that makes sense, but later in the story, after you played through it, and you said the game was corrupt, you spelled it correctly, and I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Another quote was, I felt okay, which, of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you want to spell it, I guess in a more, like, normal term, you would spell it O-K-A-Y, not just okay. Then an oddly familiar, which, has an extra L, only needs one L, F-A-M-I-L-L-I-A-R, which is how you spelled it, but it's supposed to be spelled F-A-M-I-L-I-A-R. And then don't remember this thing being in the original game. Nothing wrong with that quote, it's just that your don'ts and some of that word, like can't, they don't have apostrophes after them. So, like, apostrophe T and stuff like that, so that needs to be worked on. And last but not least, but that didn't help, which you spelled D-I-D-I-N apostrophe T. That's not how it's spelled at all, but it's just grammar. You can easily fix that in something like, I don't know, Microsoft Word. You can, like, proofread your work if you need to. That's that's one of the most key things to read to make a freaking story really good. Proofread your work. Gotta make sure that you have all the grammar correctly, because having bad grammar kind of gets you a bit, like, out of the story. It doesn't feel real. But speaking of real, next thing I really need to mention is that you mentioned Lost Silver in your creepypasta. Now, first I need to say, if you want to make a creepypasta, do not mention other creepypastas in your creepypasta. It makes it more, I guess you could say, more unrealistic. And also, you kind of used a bit of Lost Silver aspects, like the usage of unknowns and stuff like that. And to be frank, I understand that you're trying to go for something that was also big, but, like, try to make the story like yours, alright? Like, try to make it your own play on things. Also, another cliche is the game listening to the player. Now, especially with a Game Boy, that really shouldn't happen. That really wouldn't make sense. Also, a YouTuber's face being recognizable in the Game Boy Color. I don't think that's even possible. Like, having, like, okay, maybe, I guess it would make sense because, like, Game Boy Color, maybe, like, Game Boy Camera, maybe that would, something like that. But it still doesn't make as much sense, like, if that were to happen. Like, I guess if it were doing the Game Boy Camera excuse, that kind of makes sense, but you're not using the Game Boy Camera. Next, another cliche I found was, knowing your real name, even though you put in a fake name. I've seen many pastas do that, and I really don't have much to say about it, because it's just been done so many times. Next is probably the one that I don't like, honestly. It's the half YouTuber, half Breakson thing, finding the guy, the protagonist in real life and harming him. That just makes the story laughable. Like, and I'm not trying to hate the story, I'm just trying to make it sure that you have improvements. And after I read all the cliches, I want to tell you some things that I would do to make the story at least better. And last but not least is telling people not to play the game, which is basically a bunch of stories have done that already. It really should just go like, I don't know. It'd even make a bit more sense if you said something like, "Oh, I haven't been the same since," or something like that. That'd make a bit more sense. Now, let me tell you how to make the story a little bit better. fix the grammar up a little bit, because freaking having great grammar in the story is a big key aspect to having a great creepypasta. Next, another thing, don't mention anything about other creepypastas or use of other ideas. Try to make it your own story, like, make it yours. That's basically what I tried to do in my own DeviantArt creepypasta, you know, the Glitch Kirby Squeak Squad creepypasta. That's what I tried to do. I didn't try to put any blood in that, no hyperrealism, no gore. And I just tried my best to avoid cliches. That's what I've done. Excuse me. And next, a big thing you should do is try not to make the game listen to you, especially on a Game Boy of all things. If it were a creepypasta of something like Hey You Pikachu or Mario Party 6 or 7, where they actually have a usage of a microphone, then that makes more sense. And also, just to make a bare note in mind, I had no idea what YouTuber you were talking about. At first, I actually thought you were talking about Foxify because she was a YouTuber who had, like, I think a Vulpix as her Pokemon mascot. And she likes Fox Pokemon, and literally her name is Foxify, but I don't think that's who you're going for, but that was just my guess. And also, by the way, Gio Dio Pizzerio. This is supposed to be a creepypasta, right? Not, hey, I'm serve you up some pasta, hey! Not just like, maybe it's a reference to something, but I just don't get it. Although, what I can't accept is the real life, you know, half breaks and half YouTuber thing, finding you in real life. Even if it did, you know, wouldn't you have parents to notice it? Wouldn't they have seen it? Like, what I do, I take this part out entirely, because if you want to achieve your pasta being a bit more quote-unquote realistic, then just don't do this in the future. Or you can edit the story and just remove it all out and make it like a version 2.0, who knows? Oh, and also, don't go and say something like, you know, don't play this game at the end of your story. That's been done many times. Like, maybe if you said something like, I don't want to play that, I don't want to see that bootleg again, specifically, or something like that. But, like, I've heard that excuse, like, you know, don't play that game more times than I can think. As far as I know, as far as I recall, I think waking up in a hospital is also a cliche as well. But granted, he did tell me that this was his first story, so I have to give him a little bit of slack. But I'm just giving you all these examples in the future just so you can improve in the future, and I really hope you make these fantastic stories, and I really hope that they're going to be on point and beautiful. And my rating for the story, I'm going to say, even though there's a bunch of, you know, cliches in there, I do know that the story at least tried, especially for a first pasta attempt. I will at least rate this a solid 4 out of 10. Or maybe 4.5 out of 10, who knows. Either or. The potential was definitely there. I will give it credit, lots of credit. It just needed a lot more pushes and fixes to make it work. But honestly, what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this creepypasta? Did you hate it? Did you thought it was confusing? Did you wanna give this person some love? Then I put the link in the story down in the description below. But if you have enjoyed this creepypasta reading, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and also like the video, you know, share it with your friends. And also, if you've subscribed, you know, hit the little bell notification icon so you can see all my post notification stuff. Like community posts, live streams, premieres, videos, and all that stuff. But I think that's going to be it for me. Because above all else, I will see you in the next video. Hail the Hypenese.